Shall we get our next quarterfinal? It's Firstkiller versus Chronic. It's a rematch of the last time that we followed the fall major split. We went with a Swiss into single elim, and Firstkiller met Chronic in the grands. In that one, Firstkiller was able to win. I believe it was 4-1. Firstkiller did that with relative ease. He also won in another grand finals of a tournament, you might remember. Salt Mine 1 was a grand final of Firstkiller versus Chronic, in which Firstkiller won. Firstkiller actually, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, hasn't lost a North American tournament in, I don't know, ever? He's lost some show matches recently to players that you could imagine might win the tournament this time around, but he has not lost a tournament. I don't know if you really count Gamers 8. Gamers 8 was only a segmented ones. Certainly wasn't just a straight up ones tournament. It definitely wasn't just a North American ones tournament where you do need to qualify in that. But we'll see how he matches up against Chronic this time around. Chronic has been on the rise. If you've been watching threes, Chronic has become all the rage. Now, those of you who watched ones for a long time, you knew Chronic was the rage. And one of the reasons he was the rage is because of his wall-to-air dribble gameplay. He is one of the people who pushed the meta in the aerial side of ones at the cost of many a loss. Chronic was willing to, take some risky plays that might have been otherwise ill-advised in the process of finding out what works and what doesn't. And Firstkiller, at least when I've watched him, is just kind of the picture of mechanical perfection in the way that he plays ones. He doesn't play it super risky. He plays it fast, and he leaves very little mistakes available for you to punish him. This time, I was about to say, he almost made a mistake by missing that shot, but he does make it as he's able to explode out of the corner faster than Chronic was ready for. Chronic, ball to air dribble from the corner. Firstkiller tried to challenge him there, so if he could get the ball to net quickly, or if he can keep it at crossbar height, just inside the near post, that'll also work out. Firstkiller had zero boost and couldn't get back. What a pop-off from Chronic to score this third goal, teaching him a lesson for trying to meet him up in the corner. If you're going to come at him there, you better come away with the ball because he's going to find a way to score. Up 3-2, Chronic really just jumping at that ball for show. He wanted to prevent Firstkiller from getting it. He's able to drop it softly. He's trying to get multiple resets in the process of scoring another ball from the corner dribble. Not the corner on his own side. I'm not sure which one the players would argue is tougher. I imagine the full field dribble, but coming out of that corner with momentum actually feels like might be an easier attempt than having to start in the opponent's corner, bring it out to midfield, and bring it back to net. Chronic, when given the opportunity, takes the ball to an air dribble, but if Firstkiller does not come up to meet him, he does let it come down to a bounce. He can't work the 50 through. So it will be Firstkiller now in control of the ball. He's going to go for a double reset. Chronic able to take it away. Not prioritizing a quick shot that he might have been able to get. Instead, the low 50. He's a brick wall. Gets himself a fourth goal. Firstkiller getting 2 over the top of this challenge. Maybe he thought that ball was going to chip up. It does not. Chronic out of his own corner. Wow, he actually found a way to surprise Firstkiller. Firstkiller, who thought for sure Chronic was making a big mistake, and so he just hang out near the ball and wait for Chronic to get rid of it. Thought he was going to be able to take it away, but Chronic actually popped it pretty strong as he landed. Almost caught Firstkiller off guard. Firstkiller and Chronic both rarely missing a couple own goals. Or barely missing, I should say. Firstkiller can't find anything with the low rolling ball. Couldn't get it to a position he felt confident shooting from. Chronic able to single jump over this bump. Neither one of these guys have had a strong scoring attempt in the past few minutes. It's just been back and forth of the two of them trying to set it up. Long shot from Firstkiller. It's the first real shot we've had in a bit, and he is diving in. Chronic trying to punish him. The bounce is too high. He didn't have that read. It would have been truly an insane read if he had pre-jumped that bounce, but instead he'll take it on the second attempt and he'll tap it past the early challenge from Firstkiller. Saw him trying to stop the air dribble right away, which of course the counter to is to get movement on the ball as soon as possible. Does Chronic have this angle? He does. Firstkiller cannot recover. Firstkiller winning this kickoff, you could argue, as he pushed it into Chronic's corner, but unable to catch back up to it. Delayed shot from Chronic. Read well enough for Firstkiller that he should have been rewarded with a goal, but he misses his long shot. And that's likely the end of this game. I mean, I'm calling it a bit early, but I think he needed that to go in. He has another opportunity to make up for it here, and he doesn't get it. Chronic covers the low roll. Firstkiller tries to push it through. Another catch. Firstkiller's possession is still going, but this is what I was talking about. The fact that, oh my goodness, that was an insane save. The fact that he needed to score that last one. He can't afford to waste all this time. Chronic is actually a brick wall in net right now. Doesn't matter how much boost he has left over. You cannot get it past him, and he's wasted the time he needs. Even if he lets one in now, he's fine, but this is probably the easiest one to keep out of the past few. So holding Firstkiller to only 2 goals in this game number 1. Chronic looking solid. And will this be the first time he can squash the demons of Firstkiller? Right now, he's only 1 game in. Remember, YouTube, every subscription for the next month adds $1 to the prize pool at the end of the year. So please subscribe. Game number 2. Chronic pulling away in the latter half of game 1. Seems to be on his form mechanically. And he's a tough player to handle when that's the case. Firstkiller is certainly somebody capable of doing so and has done it many a times in the past. Can he do it now? Chronic going to get the first real scoring attempt of this game. Look at this flick. What a save. It wasn't enough, though. Oh, my goodness. The heat on this flick is absurd. Firstkiller is somehow able to pinch it out. I mean, that is insanity. I almost wish it didn't go in. I mean, credit to Chronic. I mean, the flick was about as insane as the save, but I think the save was a bit crazier. But it won't keep it out. Firstkiller goes underneath Chronic this time. Kickoff game has been fairly equal. Firstkiller bringing out a very interesting wave dash kickoff. I don't think he was intentionally trying to get a reset off the ball. I think he was just trying to get the single jump touch and then wave dash out of the landing. Doesn't hurt to get a nice reset. Firstkiller this time the wave dash kickoff bumps Chronic. That is a decent way to mitigate the downsides if you're able to maneuver your car in front of the wave dash such that you get bumped and basically helped in winning the race to the midfield boost. I don't think it's ideal to have to rely on controlling a bump from the other player, but certainly better than just losing the race there. Chronic, actually a crazy first touch. Watching from Firstkiller's perspective, I don't understand how he got a first touch that solid. But his desire to make a tough position good ends up being his downfall as Firstkiller gets his third. Yo, Maveltree, thank you for the Prime for 2 months. Yo, thank you for having a good time watching it. Thank you for the Prime. This is going to be a freebie for Firstkiller. All of a sudden, the wild, varied offense of Chronic has come to a halt. This shot far too tame to ever expect Firstkiller not to be able to counter from it. Firstkiller, first touch, put behind Chronic. He's able to control it with the butt of his car. He's got 59 to work with. And this carry could lead to a flick that has been absolutely in fuego so far today. This one a bit weaker than his previous ones. Power shot opportunity. Can he catch Firstkiller off guard? No, and actually Firstkiller gets the save with momentum, so he should be able to clear this away. I guess he had no boost left over is the big problem. And now he's actually getting a bit dangerous. Yeah, the farther he follows this ball, the more he's just trying his best not to get scored on, and he actually got away with it. Almost got a long shot, too. Interesting first touch from Chronic. Is he going to be able to stick with this? Doesn't seem like it. He is. Actually, Firstkiller just gave it back, so a couple of missed first touches from both of them. Now it's Firstkiller with tons of space. He sees Chronic pre-jump, and all that matters is that he doesn't touch the ball. Firstkiller knows that. If he touches the ball in almost any fashion, he's likely going to push it into the line that Chronic pre-jumps. So he just flips out. He just flips out of the play to make sure that he does not accelerate the ball at all. And Chronic goes soaring past, which is exactly what he needed to do. Firstkiller looking for a double, and he finds it. Just inside the post, top right. Little game of chicken at the midfield. Which one of them is going to flip first and push the ball into the other? Chronic lost that game and set Firstkiller up. Chronic's going to win this kickoff, though. A bit unorthodox, but he's got himself a perfect position and misses this time. That landing on the post might mean he gets scored on. Ends up still cutting off the shot before it comes. Firstkiller booming this to the back wall. We talk about the freaking boom meta. I swear. Firstkiller and Daniel are one of the only two people who do this as frequently as they do. Firstkiller just launches it. He says, "You're going to pre-jump? Pre-jump this, buddy." And he sends a power shot all the way to the top of the arena. There's absolutely no chance that Chronic gets there in time. And then Firstkiller has an easy double if you're him. Second goal for Chronic. Right now the kickoffs, I think, have been his only way of scoring. Can't remember how his first one came, but I believe it was shortly after a kickoff. Chronic sending this to the ceiling in an attempt to delay Firstkiller's attack, who ends up falling directly underneath the ball. Has to pre-flip to try and get a touch. Move this out of a dangerous position, but it does stay in a dangerous position. Chronic a bit too slow on the setup for his flick. Needed that pop to be earlier. Firstkiller's in the zone right now. I mean, this is tough. This is tough. Firstkiller has entered that zone where everything he does seems to be working out. And this time, it's a dribble to ceiling height into a reset that Chronic doesn't stand a chance at trying to intercept. Chronic maybe has those demons showing up in his head right now. Hasn't been able to beat Firstkiller, as far as I'm aware, in any match that I know of. Lost to him in a couple tournament contexts. Not sure if they've played in these show matches outside of it, but I think Firstkiller has had the edge in all of them. And you know, after that game one, Chronic had to believe, but Firstkiller's trying to remind him who he is in this game number 2. A total reversal of momentum between these two. Firstkiller styling now. Actually, great save from both of them. Both of them styling. Chronic does stop from going down 9-2. But these two keep the mechanics sharp while they waste out the final seconds. Will we continue to see these decisive games Or will either one of them be able to keep it close late into the clock? For now, we head to a tied series, 1-1. So we go to game 3. Game 3. Either one of these guys mixing up their cars. Both of them mostly Octane players. We actually see Chronic bring out the Dominus in 1v1 in the past, but I think he's given up on that play. He's going to score immediately off the kickoff. And that is something that came very rarely in the previous 5 minutes of gameplay. Only 2 goals in that entire time. So it's got to be good for the mental to immediately see one go through with just about 3 seconds off the clock. Firstkiller now, quick camera check. See if Chronic is chasing him down or if he has time to set up in the corner, which he does. Chronic not willing to come all the way to him. Having to react to the irritable bump, and it never comes because the counter to this pre-jump is to drop the ball right back down. Chronic knew what he had to be scared of. But Firstkiller too quick on the reaction. Chronic going to be on the wrong side of this ball. Has to wait for it. Could not chip it up like he would have liked, and Firstkiller gets ahead of himself here. A lot of boost to use for Firstkiller, but he's going to find a way to get the corner. For sure, Chronic was going to come out with that advantage. Now he's on 0. He's getting bumped and demoed. Can Firstkiller get this goal before the respawn? Not likely. So instead, he takes a trip to the midfield. Goes for a wide swing towards the shot. Goes for the safe option of just getting the reset while 50ing. Which makes it possible for him to likely explode out of the challenge faster than Chronic, who doesn't set up in that way. Oh, nice bump. Not sure this was planned as a bump the whole way, but it finishes off as a bump to get his second goal. Ends up, I mean, that's such an interesting bump, because Firstkiller had landed by the time he hit with him. Oh, Chronic, very interesting kickoff. I'm not sure if he set the controller down and was forced to do it, or if he just wanted to sit in net. Not often do you see that. I mean, everybody who's not going to kickoff nowadays, they go to boost, they come back, and they attempt to make a save. This time Chronic just camps, and he didn't get scored on. So you could argue it worked out so far, but I mean, he's been having to play defense ever since because of that really poor initial setup. But now, with possession too strong of a first touch, Firstkiller was laying in wait like a shark. If Chronic made even a slight slip up, like putting too much power on that first touch, and he was there, Chronic needs to be cleaner, and he gets his opportunities at possessions, and cleaner he is right now with a perfect setup, and he ends up putting it behind Firstkiller with the reset. I thought he ended up slamming it right into him, but Firstkiller over-rotates past the ball, cannot flip back, and Chronic ties the game. Chronic chasing down Firstkiller, forcing him to make a touch and stealing his boost, hoping that he can make something happen after that play, but instead it's the exact opposite now. Firstkiller forcing Chronic to use all of his 100. He knows Chronic had to use everything to get that clear, but Chronic's not backing down. Stays on ball with just a pad to work with. Now he's going to be forced to rotate back to net. But Firstkiller does not play it quickly, so Chronic, given time to set up, this first save cost him literally 0 boost. Doesn't use a single bit of it. Second one's going to cost a bit, as he needs to evade the bump, but that bump on Firstkiller gave him some space. That big challenge, though, I think scared Chronic into dropping the ball down. He was trying to set up a carry, and he would have if it weren't for Firstkiller flashing towards him, but he was worried that the early challenge needed to be 50. Chronic, so much pop on the ball. I mean, it's an own goal when you pop it as much as he did, but still, impressive amount of movement. Chronic kickoff win. The ball rolls high up the ceiling, so he just tries to use that to his advantage by playing it off the ceiling. And even though he doesn't score in the first, the follow-up demo equalizes the scoreline quickly after the mistaken air dribble that gave Firstkiller the lead in the first place. Chronic off the ceiling again. What a save from Firstkiller. The placement was perfect, and the bounce was just awkwardly timed enough for the distance that Firstkiller couldn't get that shot. He ended up squeezing underneath the ball. Anything slightly different there, and he's able to get a counterattack shot. But fortunate for Chronic because he's still in this one. This is a great flip out of this 50, and even though the shot is a bit weak, not going to matter. Chronic still able to take the 4-3 lead. Chronic now just going to go for a power shot off the kickoff. Best possible scenario is to force Firstkiller into making a save that starves him a boost, which he did, but now Firstkiller doing the same thing back. Chronic the setup to the ceiling to try and make it as tough for Firstkiller to take as possible. That setup pays off as Chronic's able to get the save. 20 seconds left to go. He's in control of the ball. You got to imagine he's going to go safe, but that was even safer than I imagined. I thought he would just go low 50, but he actually completely left the ball. Firstkiller demos him. Can Chronic respawn and get the save? The pre-jump! It's not there. The pre-flip in front of the net almost stood a chance. I want to watch it from Chronic's perspective. Did he react with perfect timing? Did he pre-turn left? Or did he pre-turn right? We'll have to go back and look at the replay. Like the replay of Rise, right? It was Rise who got that save. Oh my goodness, almost 0 second from Chronic. Firstkiller sends it to the ground, so overtime in game number 3. Second 50 off this kickoff is forced to Chronic's back left corner. Firstkiller has boost. Chronic, huge swing away from net. He left a gaping hole in the net that he was not able to cover, but Firstkiller misses off the crossbar. And Chronic is still alive in this game. He's getting chased down by Firstkiller, who's not quite supersonic enough to bump and demo Chronic. So he gains control of the ball. Tough position for Firstkiller to handle. He tries to just send it to the moon in order to prevent Firstkiller, or prevent Chronic from being able to shoot, but Chronic fakes once, gains the ball, air dribbles Firstkiller, able to save it away. He is going once again for Boomer Ball. Boom the ball, figure it out later, but this is the reason why you don't see a ton of people doing it. It just turns into an immediate Chronic possession, so Firstkiller's only attack of overtime so far is completely nullified. Chronic back in control of the ball. Going to his wall air dribble. Firstkiller doesn't want it. He's going to pinch that ball away, but it's still going to be a Chronic air dribble nonetheless. Just going to start from farther back in his half. Takes it to just about ceiling height. Has the reset. Firstkiller gets the save. How does he have that read? He's reacting so late on the goal line trying to save these, and it's such a high risk, but he did exactly that. Keeps it out of net, and now he's barreling down on Chronic, trying to make him awkward as he looks to use the 56 boost he has left over to his advantage. Chronic has a ton as well, though, as he saves this with power. Backflip from Chronic, very wise, as he was about to go flying way past the play. And now he's chasing Firstkiller down. Chronic forced off the ball. Might have had a chance to clear that, but was worried that Firstkiller would just beat it to him clean. Great flip by Chronic back onto the wall, not to lose control of his car. If his car falls down to the ground, he is going to have a tough time making the right move, but instead he stays in control. Firstkiller has been a brick wall, but no longer, as Chronic finally muscles his way through. The first 50 is saved off the post, but the second one, as Firstkiller recovers off of his own post, he cannot keep it out. Chronic will put himself on match point. One more game to exercise the demons. Game 4, backs against the wall for Firstkiller. Needs 2 in a row. We saw a blowout in Chronic's favor. We saw a blowout in Firstkiller's favor. And then we saw just about the closest game you could possibly hope for. I think just under 2 minutes into overtime, Chronic able to get the game winner. He was barraging that net before finally getting the goal. It was going to be a tough game to lose for Chronic fans, as it seemed like he was inches away in multiple occasions. But it's not over yet. Never over till the final bell with Firstkiller. Chronic trying to start with a double reset. Way too much separation on himself and the ball. Chronic on 100. Firstkiller doesn't really have an angle to make a play here. He's just trying to see if he can hold on to possession long enough to have an opportunity, and now he does as he resets at the midfield. Look at this 50. Chip in the air dribble from the right side of the field to the left from Chronic's perspective here, and he tries to match him. You see Chronic pre-jumping, waiting for his opportunity to take the ball away, but it never comes. And he loses out on the challenge on the ground. Firstkiller in control again. Not able to get this flick fast enough. He needs to carry that ball sooner if he wants to catch Chronic out. Chronic pre-jumping, and it works out. He actually reads that Firstkiller is going to slow down, because if Firstkiller played that first touch as fast as he probably would have if Chronic wasn't there, he probably would have took it to ceiling height. But he saw Chronic pre-jump. Chronic, how did they get this save? What is he doing in net right now? Firstkiller can't seem to get past him. He went to what he thought was his most reliable method, try and go drive through the ball and bump Chronic, but that doesn't work either. And this fake might finally do it. Firstkiller, unrelenting, finds his window eventually. It's going to come off of the fake reset. I'm not so sure that it was a fake because Firstkiller wasn't able to get it, or if he really meant to just get Chronic to miss by putting his wheels on the ball. But either way, it's not going to matter. Firstkiller gets his goal. Air dribble from the back corner. 3-0 for Firstkiller. Great start for somebody who needs this game win to stay alive. Firstkiller was the one forced to make save after save at the end of the last game. That is completely swapped, and Chronic hasn't looked quite as solid as Firstkiller did in that overtime. Of course, Chronic did eventually score. But Firstkiller's been able to put in 3. Chronic dribble started off the back wall. Firstkiller had that read of where it was headed. Chronic's able to get a good enough bump that he can't immediately counter. Firstkiller now up 4-0. Just a great read on an early challenge. The pop is high enough. Firstkiller doesn't stand a chance. Or I should say Chronic doesn't stand a chance. Firstkiller now full field dribble. Plays keep away as he sees Chronic jump in the defensive effort. Knows it's better off for him to take it away from net himself and not let Chronic get a play, but he's still not able to follow it up. He has to evade Chronic now. He gets a quick save in and out of the net, and it's a goal for himself. Chronic locked on and used up every last bit of his boost in the process of saving Firstkiller, and the problem is that he also dove into the net to do it. So once he was out of boost, he has to awkwardly recover from the inside wall of the net, and that's not going to happen. Firstkiller's trying to pinch it too high. But 5-0. Keeping Chronic shut out. I mean, that is a sign of Chronic maybe psyching himself out a bit. We're talking about a guy who is fire from the wall to air dribble, and that first touch was just not it by any means, and this save is not it either. Credit to Firstkiller for you know, a slightly tricky shot, but this is something that was shot far enough away that I would almost expect Chronic to get that save. 6-0. Chronic needs a kickoff win and a good start to this possession, and that's exactly what he has here. Will it be enough to start the comeback? Perfect play. I mean, this is why I was so surprised Chronic missed that first touch earlier. This is a bit of an easier first touch to get in a more controlled environment off that kickoff. Headed the ball to the far left post, away from the defender. Force Firstkiller off the wall to the ground in that moment. Use the reset. Keep the ball high. That defender is going to be nowhere to be found. Chronic is forced right now to play maybe a more aggressive style than he would want to. You see him diving in Firstkiller's half. It's going to get him scored on, but I don't blame him here at all. The only path to victory was to go wildly aggressive on offense and hope that he could work his way back. So Firstkiller responding well to the overtime loss. Looking like it will be a blowout win as we head to yet another Game 5. Chronic, I mean, I guess technically not out of it, but this top left shot is saved. Firstkiller trying to keep this Brazil goal line. See, not even trying to shoot this one. Just was looking to get a touch to the midfield, take possession. He's not going to shoot this either. Plays a bit of keep away. He specifically wants 7-1. So Chronic on the edge of taking down Firstkiller in a series format for the first time, what I imagine is in a long time, if not maybe ever. But he's going to have to do it in one final game. Game 5 between Firstkiller and Chronic coming up now. Game 5. Firstkiller and Chronic. What more can you ask for as a 1v1 fan here today? Daniel Lionblaze goes to 5. And now Chronic Firstkiller goes to 5. Chronic the first to strike in this final game. Gonna do so off the bounce. Really great first touch. I mean, I talked about this a second before, but the first touch and the initial setup for the air dribble is the reason why he's able to score this. He takes it perfectly inside the far post, which means Firstkiller, where he wants to be, is on the wall in the net. But you can't be on the wall in the net, so he has to try and work his way around the top of it to get a good angle, and it just makes that save really hard. If Chronic aims his first touch anywhere else, it's going to be a lot easier for Firstkiller. Firstkiller has this read, though, so solidly that Chronic even gives him the nice one as he heads to the ceiling to prevent the high touch from Chronic. Firstkiller was hoping to try and win at 50 if Chronic was a bit too adventurous coming to challenge him, but Chronic does turn to the shadow. Firstkiller keeps it away. More important than getting the shot attempt is probably keeping control of the ball, because eventually he'll find his way in. This is the exact 50 that he was trying to get before, but Chronic didn't take it and he shadowed instead. This time Chronic does try and take it, and this is the reason why Firstkiller was trying to bait him into that 50, because he knew he'd be able to explode out of that quicker and find his way into the net. What a strong pinch from Chronic. It's going to be an ideal pass for Firstkiller, who's able to catch and set up a dribble at the midfield. And Chronic not going to be able to save this one. Zero boost left over. Awkward flip off this wall. It was off the wall, right? Yeah, he drove up to try and get a bit of height, but took himself out of the play. Chronic now with space. Pre-jump Firstkiller, able to get back down to prevent the sneak underneath. Firstkiller active on defense right now, and it's got Chronic second guessing himself. This demo is not going to be a wall to air dribble from Chronic. Interesting. In the final moments, it's just going to be all reliable. Firstkiller gets around it. Able to make the save. I wonder if Chronic regrets not taking a wall to air dribble. You know, you almost don't like to see him not playing his game. Normally, that is his go-to. Maybe not feeling it right now as he takes down for the much easier mechanical play of the air dribble bump, but that doesn't work out either. Firstkiller now dribble all the way from his net. Has to go low. Doesn't have the boost to make it the whole way, and Chronic knows. Firstkiller not going to take a wall to air dribble either. Instead, he recognizes that he can get there on the ground before Chronic makes it to net. And it does take quite a few good touches to make it happen. That's exactly what he gets. Look at the placement. I mean, Chronic turns away, maybe hoping that the bounce isn't going to be into the net. But man, I mean, that was as hard to save as possible for Chronic. Oh my goodness. I was going to say, if that was a save, then there was nothing that Firstkiller could do wrong in the past 7 or so minutes. Chronic is able to capitalize on this one. No boost left over for him on this play off the kickoff, but he saw his opportunity to score. It's a bit of an all-in play if he somehow isn't able to find a good shot, but did exactly that. Firstkiller forced in the net with 0. Can Chronic convert on a position that should be very much in his favor? Yes, he can. Firstkiller picking up a couple pads and coming out to the corner to pressure Chronic. Sure that he is expecting that pop over the top of him. He's basically forcing Chronic to do that. Then he was hoping that he could intercept the shot with the bit of boost that he did have. Ends up flying past the ball. Chronic says, sorry. Don't apologize to us. Firstkiller says, no problem. You could give me as many goals as you want. Chronic did not want that bounce. Is really the only explanation. It was a pretty wild bounce, I'll be honest. Chronic can't get it off the back wall and in the net. Firstkiller is doing his best to try and clear this ball with 0 boost. But Chronic knows to force the ball right back at him. Air dribble bump, and it's not going to be possible this time. Not with how little Firstkiller has left in the tank. He does very intentionally flip over the 3 pads, so he gets 36 by the time he's trying to make the play, but it also pushes him too deep into net, into a position where he can't get back up to get the correct angle. So it's a trade-off between picking up those pads and maybe being in a better spot to make the save. Chronic looking top left, and Firstkiller has done such a good job of getting to those positions. And not only just saving, but converting them for times like this. Firstkiller just threw himself the nice one, or is he saying to Chronic nice one? Because he launches it up, and Chronic going goals. But, I mean, it was in. Chronic had to try and save it. I guess it was the nice one because Chronic finished it off. Firstkiller pre-jumping, or pre-flipping, I should say, to stop the direct kickoff. And he has looked confident in net this time to save out of the inside of the net. Stealing Chronic's boost and waiting for a mistake as Chronic tries to carry the ball. And there it is. Chronic not recognizing that Firstkiller was ready to backflip challenge on him. You watch from Chronic's perspective. You see the slight camera flick. He's like, where is he? Is he right beside me? Is he right on the other side of the ball, or did he go farther away? He couldn't tell. He's tried to see that slight flick to find out, but Firstkiller hid perfectly and is able to surprise him with the backflip. Chronic the pop. Firstkiller has to jump in order to not get demoed, but he handles it just fine. And with a minute left to go, this is a crucial possession here for Chronic, and he's not even able to take his air dribble. Firstkiller cuts it off, evades the demo, gets the goal. Firstkiller. That wall to air dribble was a moment that you felt Chronic needed. Not only does he not get it, Firstkiller finds a way to make it a goal of his own. Firstkiller up the side wall with 40 seconds. Any possession that he has is all he needs. Just needs Chronic not in control of the ball. Chronic has it now. Reliable once again. Firstkiller has been able to stop Reliable more times than it's worked now, though. Chronic gets a 5th. I'd almost rather see Chronic take to the skies, do it in Chronic fashion in his attempt to take down Firstkiller for the first time. Wave dash kickoff. What just happened? Chronic got a reset on the ball while turtled, and he uses it to push the ball to Firstkiller's half. The problem is it's not good for him. The end result of the play is the ball rolls away from him and he has 0 boost and is not going to recover quickly, which is the worst possible case. And Chronic, an amazing save to end the game. But the demons are not exercised, not yet. Firstkiller advances to the semis 3-2 over Chronic. And another great series for the fans.